Hello and welcome to the introduction to the new Garden Path stamp set and Garden Path stencil pack. This is a beautiful floral layering stencil set. The back of the packaging gives you a little sneak preview of what it looks like when you layer all 5 stencils together. So there's 5 stencils in the pack and it creates a beautiful floral entire background, so like a full card front here. So I'll just kind of lay these in order. I don't think they're in order, but this is how I would do it. 2 big blooms, and then when you line this one up over top, it gives you like the center of the bloom and the little floral clusters that surround the blooms. And then here are the leaves that kind of hug the blooms. These are like floral centers and stems, and this is basically like a mask that covers everything so you can blend the background if you choose to do so. And then here is the Garden Path stamp set. It says, "Hope your day is wonderful. Oh, so very grateful." Flip this around and this says, "Oh, so happy for you. Sending you so much love. There's a small hello and thinking of you." And so these are, you might think, kind of wonky in the size, but I'll show you the end. They're perfectly sized to fit in that shape between the 2 floral clusters. There are little registration marks, so you can easily line this up with a panel of cardstock that's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so I'm going to get to blending, demonstrating how easy this is to put together. I'm using all Concord 9th ink pads here, starting with honeysuckle. Okay, so I do oftentimes when I blend, I go a little bit gradient. I call it the gradient love. And that just means in some areas I go a little heavier, a little more vibrant, and some I do lighter. I just prefer that look, but it definitely looks great if you just give a flat, even wash as well. A lot of different looks you can achieve when you're ink blending. Okay, lining up the next stencil, and I'm blending a little bit of Buttercup in the center of the blooms. And you'll probably see me switch in and out of different sizes of blending brushes throughout the video, because when I'm doing smaller areas, I like to use small little brushes. When I do larger areas, I like to switch to a bigger brush. Sometimes I'm just trying to grab a brush that looks like it's the right color of the ink I'm using. Here I'm doing a couple of the blooms that are surrounding the large bloom with sorbet, a little bit of poppy, and I love using poppy. I think it's one of my favorite colors of the Concord 9th inks because it's just such the perfect happy red. And then we have a little carnation, a little bit of that over there on the side. Okay, lifting that up, and you can see how this is starting to come together. And then I'm going to layer on the next stencil. I didn't even check. I don't think these are numbered. It really doesn't matter which order you go. As long as you line them up where they're supposed to be, you can go in whatever order toot your flute. Okay, adding some more detail to the center. So I pulled out Sunflower, which is just a little slightly darker than Buttercup. And then here's Cranberry for the centers of those poppy little bloom clusters. And again, using a small little blender brush to get in those tiny little nooks and crannies of the dots. Okay, and then here we have more. I use the same color, sorbet. So if you don't have a lot of colors, you can do a sorbet center on a sorbet bloom. You just blend a little heavier, little more oomph. And then a little avocado for those leaf stems here and there. There's only 3 of them, so it's not going to wear you out. You know, some layering stencil sets, by the time I'm at the end, I feel like I had a workout. You know, some are harder than others, some are more work than others. This one here, this one you can relax, and it's going to give you a beautiful result with minimal effort. And that's what it's really all about at the end of the day. Okay, so for some of these leaves here, I did out of lemongrass. And then for the other ones, I pulled out clover just for a contrast in green. I like to have different shades of green. Sometimes I like to do shades of aquas and blues for the leaves when I want to shake it up and live on the edge. Okay, so we have that clover that had an avocado stem detail, and those 2 seem to work well together. Wasn't even sure how that was going to go, but I like where it's heading. And then now if you want to mask off all the blooms and blend the background, this is such an easy way to do it. I lined that up. I pulled out sea glass for a very light, subtle background. Not too poppin', Although I'll show you an example of one at the end where I did a blueberry background, a very rich, dark background, and it really makes the blooms pop. Kind of gives you the rifle paper vibes when you do a really rich background like that. So just trying to make an even sea glass background here. Lift this off and we're done. One thing I like to do to, I used a sticky mat to hold everything together, and it makes it easy. Okay, so here's how these sentiments fit right in that spot. That's why they're shaped the way they are, and you get 4 different options to choose from for different occasions. And I chose to use the Sending You So Much Love, inking that up with black ink and stamping it, and look at how easy that is. I'm going to adhere this to a standard A2 size card base, and then I'll show you a couple other examples that I've created to show you a little variation. Okay, so here's the one that I just blended, and I put it on a white card base. It's nice and flat for mailing. I did add a few little Concord 9th enamel dots in coordinating colors to the centers of a few of the blooms, and this card is finished. Now, one other one here I did, very simple, is I only did the bottom half, so just that bottom cluster, but I centered it in the card base. So I left out everything on the top and made a simpler design on a white panel. Gives you lots of clean white space. I did a bright poppy bloom with the little hello sentiment. And then here's one, same exact procedure, but I did a blueberry background. It's nice and rich. I did light blooms, and then I chose a different sentiment. Hope your day is wonderful. And so it gives you a totally different look just by customizing the colors. And that is the introduction to the Garden Path stamp set and Garden Path stencil pack.